Right now, under your sink, there's a simple curve of pipe. You've probably never even looked at it. But this simple bend is the only thing separating your home from the disease and chaos of the city's sewer. This isn't just plumbing. It's a peace treaty. And for most of human history, we didn't have it. To understand how vital this little curve is, we have to travel back to a time when we didn't. To a city literally choking on its own secrets. London, July 1858. The air is thick, hot, and heavy. The River Thames isn't a river, it's a wound. The heat files every edge sharper, and the smell is unbearable. Inside the House of Commons, politicians tack curtains soaked in chloride of lime over the windows, just to be able to breathe. The stinging crystals are the only defense against the city's foul breath. They called the smell, miasma, bad air, alive with consequence, and the word moved through corridors like a fog that knows your name. And yet, in the middle of this suffocating theater, the solution already existed. A simple porcelain S-bend. The smallest, most powerful lock in the entire city. Tilt it, and a tiny lens of water holds, refusing to surrender the air behind it. It's not a pipe, it's a pact of forgetting. So when did we engineer the right to forget our own waste, and what did we trade to earn it? Let's start with the lock itself. The design is elegantly simple, born from a watchmaker's mind. In 1775, Alexander Cumming patents the water seal closet. He specifies the curve perfectly, just enough to hold back a thumbs-thick pool of water. That little pool of water keeps the city's breath from climbing back up through the bowl. The difference is silence, no smell, no swarm of insects. And silence in a crowded city is policy. Then, the idea gets refined. In 1778, Joseph Bramah improves the valve to resist freezing, so the seal won't fail you in winter. And a century later, in 1885, Thomas Twyford creates a single piece, all-china closet. No porous wood, no leaky seams, just a smooth glaze that refuses to hold on to yesterday. So, what Cumming designed becomes the standard. What Bramah made stubborn becomes reliable. And what Twyford fired in his kiln becomes reproducible for everyone. This isn't about looking fancy, it's pure function, a hydraulic gate. You lift the handle, water enters, the seal reforms. Without it, a toilet is just an open mouth leading directly to the sewer. With it, the mouth is closed. But this fight, the urge to domesticate our own filth, it's an ancient one. This story didn't begin in London. So how did our ancestors handle it? You might be surprised. Let's jump back 4,000 years to the Indus Valley. They had grid streets with baked brick drains, standardized and orderly. A civilization built on containment. Or look at Mesopotamia. They were building vertical ceramic shafts to channel waste down into lined pits. And then there's Rome, which turned sanitation into a public spectacle. They had the Forica, massive public latrines with stone benches over constantly flowing channels. You'd even get a shared sponge on a stick. So they had sewers, but they were still getting sick. Why? Archaeologists have found parasite eggs in the fossilized waste from those Roman latrines, a microscopic census proving their empire never quite sealed the invisible out. They were missing the final, crucial piece of the puzzle. Even in ancient China, a recently discovered 2,400-year-old flush latrine shows running water being guided into a bowl, a brilliant flare of ingenuity. Yet still, the air was unsealed. For centuries, in medieval Europe, it was all about courage and stigma. You had garderobes dropping waste into moats, or cesspits hidden under floors. And then there were the gong farmers, the night soil men working by lantern, waist-deep in the city's secrets. So, what was the tipping point? What forced London and the world to finally solve this problem? One man and one map. In 1854, for years before the Great Stink, a doctor named John Snow meticulously mapped cholera deaths around the Broad Street pump. His dots on the map collected like bruises, all pointing to a single source. In a stroke of brilliant, blunt subtraction, he removed the pump's handle. He proved, for the first time, that the killer was in the water, not the air. His map became a mirror held to the neighborhood's throat. But old ideas die hard. For years later, in the summer of 1858, the Great Stink happens. The heat cooks the Thames until it releases an argument so powerful that no member of parliament can ignore it. Finally, the smell makes sewage a political emergency. And so, work begins. From 1859 to 1865, an engineer named Sir Joseph Bazalgette knits together a new underground world. 82 miles of main intercepting sewers, connecting to 1,000 miles of street drains. It was a colossal undertaking. Over 300 million bricks, set in new Portland cement, with pipes deliberately oversized for a future he could only imagine. Giant pumping stations, disguised as ornate Italianate temples, used steam power to turn smell into motion. London had grown a second set of arteries below its streets. And now, the true genius of the S-Bend reveals itself. That little seal is a virtuoso, but it can only perform inside an orchestra. It needs the whole system: pressurized water supply, vent stacks to quiet the gulp, vitrified porcelain that won't absorb, and treatment works that complete the sentence your thumb begins at the lever. When all these parts finally align, the results are staggering. Cholera rates plummet. Diarrheal disease declines. The toilet, it turns out, is a vaccine you can sit on. But this covenant, this pact of forgetting, it comes at a price. First, there's a human cost. From the night soil collectors and sewer flushers of the past, to today's utility crews who step into confined spaces that can turn deadly in an instant. In parts of the world, this is still a cast line traced through a pipe. The planet pays next. We trade smell for massive water consumption. Combined sewer overflows mean heavy storms can push diluted waste right back into our rivers. And access is not a given. Billions of people still lack safely managed sanitation. The S-Bend exists. The right to use it does not. Across the ages, every culture has wrestled with the same ghost: smell. The Indus bricks, the Roman benches, the Victorian traps, they're all variations on a single negotiation. How do we live together without swallowing each other's shadows? True innovation happens when fear is named and then ritualized into routine. We call it plumbing, but it's really a liturgy. Pour, seal, forget. Civilization is a choreography of forgetting, built atop devices that must never, ever fail. Tonight, your bathroom is a tiny treaty room. The soft click of a lever dispatches a paragraph of your biography into an underground city you will never tour. Bar screens combing rags, grit tanks settling sand, basins where microbes eat your secrets and turn them into gas. Under your sink, the S-Bend holds the line while you sleep. But you can still see the fingerprints when the treaty breaks. The sirens during a storm and the brown rivers after heavy rain? That's the sewer system speaking. The workers roped at the waist, descending to keep the rest of us clean? That's the invisible payroll of dignity. The negotiations are always ongoing. Vacuum toilets that sip instead of gulp. Composting loops that feed soil instead of algae blooms. The old lock still works, but the contract is always being edited. The final verdict? The seat of civilization isn't marble. It is a quiet, simple lens of water. It gave us privacy, health, and the ability to be social animals without drowning in ourselves. It proves that if dignity can be engineered, it must also be maintained. So the next time you hear that soft click of the lever, remember the centuries of ingenuity and the invisible army of workers that make that simple act of forgetting possible. Remember the treaty held in place by a quiet lens of water. And now I have a challenge for you. The next time you're in your bathroom or kitchen, take a second and look under the sink. Have you ever actually noticed that pipe before? Is yours an S-Bend or the more modern P-trap? I'm genuinely curious. Let me know in the comments below. And if you thought the story of this tiny curve was revolutionary, you won't believe the secret history of the simple screw and how it holds our entire modern world together. Click here on the screen to watch that investigation next. We uncover these incredible histories of everyday things every single day. To make sure you don't miss tomorrow's case file, join the investigation and hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching.